Yes, lovely people. Hope you're well. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Callum. This is the Sanderson Show. Please smash the like, comment, and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Got a fun-filled show for you guys today. As always, you know how I like to start off the show. If Jamie and Luke aren't able to join me, I still like to give them a shout out. So if you're watching this on YouTube, which you should be, please go down to the description and click on Luke's channel, click on Jamie's channel, and give them a subscribe. Without them two, this channel wouldn't have got to where it has got to. So shout out to those two, and shout out to you guys who constantly watch, like, and leave comments. In this show, I'm going to be speaking about Leon Rocky Edwards, who retained his belt with a unanimous decision win over Colby Covington, an emotionally filled fight week and fight for the champion. Also want to speak about Colby Covington and what's next for him potentially. Speaking of what's next for the UFC, a new acquisition, Michael Venom Page, MVP, is officially a UFC fighter. Going to chop that up. It's speaking about his first fight against Kevin Holland and what he could bring to that welterweight division. Also going to be speaking about what next for Paddy Piml after a win over the legendary Tony Ferguson, and also going to be speaking about the topic of trash talk in the UFC and has it gone too far? Will it get even worse? And what can be done to combat some of the stuff that steps over the line and the boundaries of fight talk? Gotta start with the man of the hour, and that is Leon Rocky Edwards. Going into the fight, everyone said Colby's cardio, the wrestling. And you're right. If you said all those things, you're absolutely right to say all those things, because in past fights, that's what we've seen from Colby Covington. Chaos is a perfect name for him, both inside and outside the octagon. And what did he do? Brought everything outside the octagon, but no chaos inside the octagon. But a lot of people have attributed to that to Colby slowing down and being slow or looking old overnight and ring rust. I think we have to give the Jamaican, and I say that being Jamaican, I think we have to give the Jamaican some flowers. I think we have to give real credit to Leon Edwards. He shut Colby down. Shut him down. And going into the fight, shout out to Luke and Jamie. We did a preview, and I said the key to victory here for Leon is to beat up the lead leg of Colby, because if he's going in for takedowns, he's pushing off that lead leg. By whacking the lead leg and injuring his leg, it's going to make it harder for him to do takedowns and to push off and to get his striking off, because his striking comes as a result of the fear of the takedown and the relentless pressure. Leon did the two things he had to do. He kept his back off the fence by taking the center of the octagon, and he beat up Colby's lead leg, which opened him up for the rest of the strikes. Leon Edwards' fight IQ is phenomenal. And because he's not the loudest in the room, because he's not doing all the interviews in the world and he isn't brash and all these things, he gets slept on. Leon's fight IQ is brilliant. And we saw that. I don't buy Colby Covington just becoming a rubbish fighter overnight. But Leon did not make him look like the Colby Covington of old. He looked tentative. He looked scared to pull the trigger. His wrestling looked basic. Leon's takedown defense is excellent. And I want to speak about Leon's takedown defense. He does something very different to a lot of other people. When people go in for a double leg on Leon, he puts himself against the cage, he swivels his hips, and he almost goes into a running motion. And not just that, he basically puts 2 to 1. So he'll get both of his hands and put it on one of the opposition's hands to stop them locking up. By doing that, you may leave yourself open for strikes, but if someone's already by your hips trying to take you down, they're not going to be able to throw strikes up above their head. Not just that, he's got 2 on 1. He controls the opposition's wrist and not allowing them to get a grip, which means they can't take him down. Such a simple theory. And in terms of wrestling 101, you would absolutely say it doesn't work. But for MMA wrestling, it seems to be one of the best antidotes at the moment. You've seen him twice against Kamaru Usman recently and just went up against Colby Covington. 2 of the best wrestlers in the division. Not necessarily saying the best 2, because Shavkat, you've got to put some credit on his name as well now. Brady as well is there. Brady's a very good wrestler. So is Bilal. Gilbert's good as well. But you'd say maybe Usman and Colby are recognized as the two best wrestlers. Leon nullified their wrestling. Both of them. Back to apologies. Nullified their wrestling back to back. Not just that as well, though. He took them both down. No one had taken Usman down. Leon says, hold my beer. Couldn't tell you the last time Colby was taken down. Leon says, hold my beer. Leon Rocky Edwards is the truth. He's the real deal. And coming out of the first fight against was the second fight / first fight, depending on when you watch the first fight, if you've ever watched the first fight, he got the net head kick knockout. He got the head kick knockout. And you're thinking to yourself, all right, he got the knockout. Viral, great post-fight speech, the rest of it. But can he do that again? And the likelihood is no. So then you start to think, can he go and beat Usman? Because Usman was beating him 4 rounds to 1. And then what does he do in the rematch, in the third fight, the decider? He goes and beats Usman 4 rounds to 1. Then Dana White does something that he wouldn't do this past weekend with regards to Bilal Muhammad, which is crazy to me. But we'll speak about that. He makes a fight there and then between Covington and Leon Edwards for the belt. Covington, in my opinion, didn't deserve the title shot. Sat on the sidelines, hadn't fought anyone. His 3 biggest wins were Damian Maia, Robbie Lawler, and Tyron Woodley. 3 aging veteran fighters. Legends within their own rights, but not in their peak. Anywhere close to their peak at the time of him fighting them. Gets title shots off the back of those wins. And Masvidal, sorry. And then he gets the title shot. And everyone goes, well, Leon ain't going to be able to beat him. The wrestling's going to be too much. The card is going to be too much. The pressure. Who's holding the belt? Still Leon Edwards. But yet, I still don't feel like he's getting that credit, that universal credit and adulation that he deserves. And maybe it's because he's not the loudest in the room. He, admittedly, as a fan of Leon, he doesn't do a great job of promoting himself. But surely if you've got a promotion behind you, that's their job as well, no? And I don't think the UFC does a great job at promoting him. I think TNT Sports does a great job. Rio Ferdinand did a great interview with Leon Edwards. Adam Catterall, Nick Peet, Caroline Pierce, they're brilliant with Leon Edwards. Is the UFC brilliant with Leon Edwards, though? Because I don't think they are. I think they can do a lot to improve on that. And Leon as well could do a lot more to improve on that. And he doesn't have to be brash or loud to promote himself. He could do it in different ways. But something needs to happen because you're looking at someone who, in my opinion, is a role model, a brilliant champion, and a great fighter. Start giving him his flowers. And I think next for him should and almost has to be Bilal Muhammad. For the integrity of the sport, for the integrity of the division, it's got to be Bilal Muhammad. And I think he wins that fight, but we still deserve to see it. Bilal deserves the fight. He absolutely does, and I hope he gets it. But one man who got the fight and didn't deserve it is Colby Chaos Covington. And look, got absolutely smashed with all the big talk he gave it going into the fight, shaking Donald Trump's hand before the fight, saying this isn't a character to Leon after he said the vile things he said about his dad. After saying vile stuff about Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, he calls out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, says that they've been having verbal jabs against each other in the media. I mean, I watch quite a lot of MMA content, whether it be Submission Radio or Errol Helwani or James Lynch and all these other people like Mark Ramondi and Brett Okamoto and MMA Junkie and ESPN MMA and Farah Hanoun. I couldn't tell you where I've seen Wonderboy throwing jabs at Colby. Colby, I've seen say stuff about Wonderboy. Wild stuff, just like he did in the press conference, which went under the radar because of what he said about Leon's dad. But the stuff he was saying about Wonderboy, that's shocking. Shocking. And again, I'll speak about the whole trash talk stuff, but that's shocking. Even more shocking is him calling out Wonderboy. We see through it now, Colby. We actually, as fans, see through it. You want to fight a striker who is seen to not have great wrestling. Why? Because you don't have great striking, but you have great wrestling. Why not go up against a great wrestler? If you want another title shot, shouldn't you be calling out Shavkat? Shouldn't you be calling out Gilbert Burns? Shouldn't you be calling out one of those guys? Shouldn't you be trying to be cheeky and say, I want Bilal Muhammad? He doesn't. You can go on your little shtick and go, Bilal Muhammad doesn't deserve it. He hasn't beaten me or Usman. I'm saying I want that fight. Why are you targeting Wonderboy off the back of a loss? What about Sean Brady? He just had a win. We see through it now. And he's not doing himself any favors. But for me, if I'm Wonderboy, I'm not calling that. I'm not taking that fight. Absolutely not. Why would I? What have I got to gain from that fight? What have I got to gain from that fight? Because even if he beats Colby and takes his ranking, he's not going to get a title shot. Because the first thing the UFC will say is, well, Shavkat just battered you. There is no upside for Wonderboy taking that fight. Apart from if he beats Colby, he gets to have bragging rights. There's no upside. I want to see Wonderboy against other strikers like we saw with Kevin Holland. MVP, who we will speak about. MVP just signed for the UFC. I'm sorry, MVP Wonderboy. We can have that now. Don't want to see Colby versus Wonderboy. I want to see Colby go up against some competition. Fighters in their prime. Because so far, I've seen him fight 2 fighters in their prime in Edwards and Usman. And I've seen him lose 3 out of 3. I need to see what you're really made of. I don't want to see you fighting someone who's out of their prime anymore. Back up your talk and fight someone in their prime. It's as simple as that. If I'm the UFC, I'm saying, Colby, you've got 3 choices. You've got Shavkat, you've got Sean Brady, we've got Gilbert Burns. That's it. Don't need to see the Usman fight again. You've lost twice. He beats you the 3rd time. Don't need to see that fight again. But that's the fight that you're being offered. If you don't want those fights, cool. See how you get nothing. Don't make any money and you're not getting a title shot. It's now time for the UFC to take back some control of this situation with Colby Covington. He can't just keep on calling the shots and being strategic and sitting on his ranking. He's the only one doing it in that top 5. Usman's not done it. Usman was a fighting champion, took on fights he didn't need to. Usman could have avoided the Leon Edwards fight. How about that? Usman campaigned for Leon Edwards to get the title shot against him. That's the sort of character Usman is. Usman said, oh, what? Paulo Costa's falling out. Okay, I'll fight the boogeyman. I'll go up in weight and I'll fight the boogeyman. I'll fight Hamza. Usman's certified. He's proven it. Gilbert Burns, proven it. Certified. I'll step in short notice. I'll fight anyone you put in front of me. Shavkat is proving it. Bilal Muhammad, look at his resume. Proving it. Vicente Luque, I'll fight him. Gilbert Burns, I'll fight him. He's the only one sitting on his ranking, not doing anything about it. It's got to change, in my opinion. It's got to change. If it doesn't change, he's either got to change division, go down to 55. I think could make 55. That would be a fresh injection of an athlete in that division as well. Or go up to 85. He was the one saying he wanted to fight Adesanya. Call out Adesanya. See if you really want that fight. So you just got pieced up by a striker. And if anyone's a better striker in the UFC than than Leon, it might be Adesanya. You called out Strickland. All right, going up to 85. Make a campaign there. See what you can do. Otherwise, don't want to hear about a title shot. And no way in God's green earth did you win 3, 4, and 5. No way. No way. You won round 5. And you won round 5 because there was no urgency from Leon to get off the ground or anything like that. So for me, yeah, Colby, something's got to be done about that. Before I move on to the MVP talk, I just want to go through some of the comments. Shout out to Biggs 1871 says, so glad the Midlands Don Dada castrated that Colby Wasteman, had him limping off like Pookie from New Jack City. Shout out to yourself. Shout out to Boo Rider, always in the chat. Big up yourself, Boo Rider. I can't read that one out. Even though I did say some wild stuff about Colby myself. Leon's grappling is criminally underrated, for real. Agreed, Bilal deserves a fight. Facts. King of the Cop says, calling out a 40-year-old striker who could take down at will at this point. You guys can read the rest. Shout out to John Conway. Big up yourself, bro. Shout out to Umair as well, who says, Cal, do you think Sean O'Malley's persona is overrated? No, not for me. I'll tell you what I like about O'Malley that I think resonates with people. I don't think he does play a character. Right? I think he's just himself. He's a goofy guy. He doesn't claim to have the best trash talk. He has some very good one-liners. He has some one-liners that don't hit. I don't think I think what I like about Sean O'Malley, I'll speak for myself. What I like about Sean O'Malley is he'll say stuff like, for example, he's still undefeated. He didn't lose to Cheeto. No, full well he did, but he says it tongue-in-cheek. Like, he'll goof himself. He'll, like, if he says something that doesn't make sense, he'll laugh at himself. He'll goof himself. I just think he's him. He doesn't try and play anyone. I like Sean O'Malley. I really do. I think he's a breath of fresh air in that 35-pound division. I just like him. I think he's himself. That's why I think he resonates with so many people. I don't think he tries to put on an act. I just think he's himself. I don't think from my knowledge, I don't think he's ever crossed the line and said anything outlandish where you're like, oh, that's too far. Apart from Cheeto, always pays respect to his opponents when he beats them. So I'm all right with Sean O'Malley. I like the guy, man. M. Tarmizi, big up yourself, bro. Hope you're well. MVP. Michael Venom Page has officially signed with the UFC. And a few weeks back when Dana was doing an interview with, I think it was a Full Center podcast, and someone with the eyes of an eagle saw that on the War Room wall, it says MVP versus Kevin Holland. And that started getting the buzz going because you're thinking Dana wouldn't just write that on the wall. They wouldn't just write that on the wall. And maybe the UFC did that tactically. Maybe. But then it went really quiet, and then rumors came out that he might not sign with the UFC. He might go to PFL. He had the stare down with Cedric Doumbé, which would have been a phenomenal fight. It's the one fight I wish he could have had that's outside the UFC. But then they announced, the announcement. Dana's in the press conference and says, I got a few more fights added for the Miami card. MVP versus Kevin Holland, blah, 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 blah. And we're like, hold on, did he just say MVP? Because he said that too nonchalantly. And he was asked, I think it was Oscar from the Mac Life asked him, he's like, you just going to skirt over that? MVP signed for UFC? And he's like, yeah, giggled about. I'm sorry, MVP is a big deal. And maybe I'm making more of a deal out of it because I'm from the UK. MVP is a big deal in mixed martial arts. There should have been some sort of a video package or something right at the end of the show. So you can have Daniel Cormier, John Anik, and Joe Rogan discuss it. Joe Rogan's spoken about MVP so many times off UFC. Could have had a nice little video package, nothing more than 30 seconds, MVP on the screen, the crowd go home with something to talk about. Joe Rogan, John Anik, and DC have something to talk about as they're going off air. Why wasn't something done more about this? I don't get it. The UFC, in my opinion, had a real chance to capitalize on the momentum they'd built up for 296. But they didn't. They just kind of just nonchalant, or should I say Dana just nonchalantly, said like, oh yeah, we've got MVP. MVP is a big deal. MVP adds even more to a thriving welterweight division. Welterweight might be the premier division right now in the UFC. I know 55 has some big names. Gaethje, Oliveira, Makachev, McGregor, Chandler. I get it. But in terms of actual fighters, contenders, 70's mad. 70's mad. Jack Della Maddalena is not even top 10. Kevin Holland's not top 10. Jeff Neal, Ian Gary, Vicente Luque, Jeff Neal, Sean Brady, Usman, Covington, Bilal, Burns, Rocky, Shavkat, Thompson. 70 pounds, 170 is crazy. It is crazy. And you've just added even more fire to that division by putting MVP. And you didn't capitalize on it. You could have broke the internet with that. But look, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just being a bit of a sport brat. But I'm so happy he signed with the UFC. So happy. And I'm not one of these guys who just predominate UFC. I know I only cover UFC on the channel. But God willing, if I do this full time, then I'll be able to cover the others as well. But man, UFC, man, it's the place for MVP. It is the place. The guy's a showman, and there's no bigger show right now than UFC. And he spoke to Ariel Helwani about his decision and saying, look, the PFL was a really good offer as well, but they're still in their teething stages. He's not a kid. MVP's mid-30s, if I'm not mistaken. The time is now or never for him. It's now or never. And what's the most current brand? It's the UFC. What's the biggest? It's the UFC. It's the UFC. And the fight with Kevin Holland, man, couldn't ask for a better debut fight. Couldn't ask for a better debut opponent. Kevin Holland brings it every single time he's in the cage. Kevin Holland can strike. He's got knockout power and he can grapple. So he has that threat as well. He's long. He's rangy. So he's MVP. This is going to be one hell of a fight. And here's the thing. I think the build-up with these two is going to be fun. But I don't think it will ever be disrespectful. Case in point, I don't know if anyone followed when MVP fought Mike Perry and Bare Knuckle. That build-up was fun. Them two were having verbal jabs at each other, talking about each other's skill sets and all this. Not once was it disrespectful, and it was always fun. Always fun. It was witty at times. It was like comically goofy. It was a good build-up. The fight lived up to it. They shook hands when they were done, and it was done. Real mixed martial arts. Just the way I like it. I think you'll see the same thing with Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's a fun guy to watch. And he's fun outside the cage as well. He's fun at press conferences. He's a fun guy. MVP is fun inside the cage. Fun post-match. And fun pre-match as well. For me, this is a great fight. This is a great fight. And I hope, biasly, I hope MVP gets it done. Because you know what fight I want to see? Leon Rocky Edwards versus MVP in London doing his thing. That, for me, that's the dream fight. That is the absolute dream fight. Now, onto another person who could be on the next UK card, and that is Paddy Piml. You had a very mature performance and a very good win over Tony Ferguson. Again, if you guys are watching this now, I did a UFC 296 recap, so I'm not going to go into detail about all these fights, etc. If you want that, you please check that video out. Paddy was excellent, but he's also excellent against a guy who should be excellent against. But I'm very interested to see how they matchmake him next. Paddy, for me, now has to get a top 20/top 15 opponent. We now need to kick him on to see if he's really able for that. And the reason why I say that now with more confidence, that was a very mature performance by Paddy Piml. Very mature. Did what he needed to do. Didn't get into an unnecessary gunfight. He managed his pressure. He managed his gas tank well. His fight IQ was on show. Paddy was excellent. Who said Brits can't wrestle? Because Paddy looked like he could wrestle. Leon looked like he could wrestle. Aspinall can wrestle. Those three are really putting that narrative to bed. Paddy might just be the one leading the charge there as well, because his jiu-jitsu is excellent as well. His ground game is excellent. And he showed that. His top pressure is brilliant. We see Tony Ferguson catch people from the back, pause, quite a lot. he couldn't even do anything to Paddy once Paddy was on top. Paddy completely controlled, and it was a shutdown. Me personally, I thought the first round was a 10-8. He won 30-27 on all the scorecards. Couldn't have done much more. But if I'm going to match up Paddy next and I want to keep the winning run going, I want to build his confidence, I'm throwing him in with like a Grant Dawson or a Mark Madsden. Predominant wrestlers who have decent striking, but very winnable fights for Paddy. And I'm not saying you cherry pick fights, because once you get past one of those guys, you're going to have to fight a striker, especially in that division. But let's start easing him into that top 15 now. Because it makes sense for the UFC, for Paddy to be in the top 15. It makes sense for Paddy to be in the top 15. It makes sense for the rest of the division. And you'll see how quickly his name gets called out by other fighters. Because let's say he gets a Grant Dawson next and he gets past Grant Dawson, Dan Hooker, Jalen Turner, Gamrot. We might see one of those fights. Let's see if Paddy's really got that championship material about him. And the only way to find out is by putting him in these matches. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Paddy next. I'm glad he's come back off his injury. Got daughters on the way, twin daughters. So God willing, it goes good and smooth for his wife, and they have a safe delivery, and the kids are healthy, and the family's happy. Hopefully he's over his injury issues now. He seems way more humble than he was going into the last fight. Seems like he's really matured. So, and you know, he's a Liverpool fan as well. So all the best to Paddy, man. All the best to Paddy Piml. Go and try and be great, man. Go and do it. And finally, before I wrap up, if you haven't smashed the like button, please do. The trash talk situation and just overall behavior of UFC fighters. I think we've got to speak on it, man. And I know I'm going to get called soft and it's the fight game and deal with it, Cal. I get that. I don't have an issue. If that's your opinion, that's your opinion. But I've got a right to give you mine. I'll start with Strickland. The guy says some outlandish things and some wild things. Some things he says make sense, but others are just really wild. And no one's really held him accountable for these things. Izzy did try and hold him accountable, but Izzy said some wild things as well. So it kind of fell on deaf ears. Plus, Izzy went into that fight as the heel because Sean won the fans over. So a lot of it fell on deaf ears, what he was saying pre and post match. But the Drakus stuff, like the stuff you're saying about Drake and his coach, that's so unnecessary, man. That's like, I don't know, man. There's lines and then you're just crossing these lines, man. Like, you just crossing these lines. Football gospel, bro. I can't agree. I'm a big fan of Nina Drama. I think she's one of the best MMA content creators out there. I don't think people can blame her for how Sean Strickland, Covington, and Drakus are behaving. I think she's a very good content creator. I think she for me does the perfect job of towing the line, but also having great MMA knowledge. I honestly do. Yes, she gets away with it because she's a pretty woman as well. So she can ask certain questions about, smash or pass and have that sexual innuendo. But I think she does it in a tasteful way. And I think she's very intelligent. I think she's shown herself to be one of the best, if not right now, the best MMA content creator. I genuinely do. But Sean was doing this stuff before Nina's was interviewing him and getting him more credibility and notoriety. Sean's been doing this for a while. But at the same time, Drakus, again, the stuff he said about African champions and real African champions, that didn't sit well with me. Yes, MMA Guru is sick as well. He's a very good content creator as well. So I just like what Drake is saying about is that, and granted, look, Sean started it. But there's just things you don't speak about, like child abuse. Is this what we're doing now, guys? We're using child abuse in fight talk. I'm sorry, when did this become cool? Child abuse. Like, think about that for a second. Like, I could have my biggest enemy in the room right now, and they could be saying some stuff about me, and I could be saying stuff about them. I'm not stooping to talk about child abuse. Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, homophobia as well, like from Sean's side, like what's going on here? And homophobic slurs, like what, like, and then flipping Colby Covington talking about someone's deceased parent. Like, when did this start to become a thing? Because I know everyone's going down the Conor McGregor blueprint of, you know, saying stuff and getting good money from it. Conor wasn't doing this at the beginning. Like, granted, the Khabib build up and the Dustin Poirier build up to their third fight stepped over the line many times. But that's not the Conor that we all grew to love. That's not the Conor that became the megastar. That's the Conor who was already a megastar. Colby, Dracus, Strickland, Manel Karp. It's got to stop. It's got to stop, man. How the UFC police it, I don't know. Look, you take these lot out of fights, you dock their wage, you got to do something, or else you're gonna be putting. Look, the UFC is a globally recognized brand now. It's not just some underground company. This is the biggest MMA organization, one of the biggest organizations in the world. Dana can't keep on turning the blind eye to it, because ultimately what's going to happen is someone's going to really step over the line and it's going to get really negative press, or someone's going to say something wild and a fight is going to do something about it. I'll be completely honest with you. My respect for Leon Edwards has gone through the roof. I've had family members who have passed away close to me. I've had close family members passed away. If someone used that as fight talk, I don't know if I'm making it to the fight, because I'd probably be in a jail cell. Thank God for security, because if security wasn't there, we wouldn't have had a fight at 296. Leon would have killed him. And you wouldn't even blame him. And I know people say it's just words and this is the fight game. It's not just words. If anyone who thinks that it's just words, you can just brush it off, it's not, man. Come on now. We're all grown-ups here. We know it's not just words. If it was just words, Colby wouldn't have said it. He knew that was going to really, really hit him to the core, and it did. Leon, a man who doesn't really show emotion, is there on stage looking like he's crying. Off stage, he's crying because you want to promote a fight. You want to promote a fight. I'm sorry, but UFC, Dana White, they've got to do something about this before it goes down the route where you start losing fans, and you send the sport back to the dark ages, whereby TV stations and media didn't want to cover it because someone's going to end up doing something wild and there's going to be a retaliation. I hope to God I'm wrong, and I hope it gets nipped in the bud. If this wasn't a cry out for Dana, apologies again. If this wasn't a inclination to Dana or wake up call, then nothing will be. Nothing will be. You had the Colby situation, you had the situation with Dracus and Sean, and then you had the fight, the brawl at the, like, there's kids there. I know Sean did the whole move aside to the kids. That could have spilled over and one of those kids could have got hurt. What are we saying then? Were we just going to say, you know, I shouldn't have sat them so close to each other? No, you should be able to sit them close enough where they're not going to fight. I'm not saying you sit them right next to each other, but there's enough space where they don't need to fight. Sean Strickland had to move people out of the way, jump over a couple of rows of chairs to start a fight. That for me is far enough away. Something needs to be done, man. Something really needs to be done. But I don't want to end on a negative note. 296, UFC 296 was an excellent card. I'm going to touch on some of the prelims as well. Cody Garbrandt looked excellent. Lipsky looked excellent. The Aldana fight, oh my goodness, what a fight that was. What a fight that was. The Menefield Jacoby fight, excellent fight as well. Emmett with probably arguably the knockout of the year. The card was excellent and really did deliver. So kudos to the UFC. A very good card from start to finish. The main card maybe didn't deliver as much as the prelims, but a very, very good card. But people, I want to say thank you. We haven't got any more UFC cards, so no more watch longs between now and the end of the year. However, I do want to do an end of year awards show. Hopefully Luke and Jamie will be able to join me for that. I try and get in a couple more people as well. You guys in the comments as well, if you want to get involved, by all means, let me know. Drop me a DM either on Twitter or Instagram. Notoriously, I can be quite bad at checking my DMs, but I'll make sure I check over the Christmas period. But yeah, want to do an end of year award show. Not for us, Chris. Shout out to Chris Brack. For the fighters like knockout of the year and submission of the year and women's and men's fighter of the year and sort of a look onto the horizon of 2024. I want to do a show on that. So I'll aim to get Luke and Jamie on for that, and also try and get a couple more other content creators and MMA fans on for that as well. So yeah, again, obviously I'm not going to go too soppy because hopefully we'll have at least one more show before the end of the year. But I've got a few things going on in my personal life that may mean I don't film between now and the end of the year, but nothing bad, nothing to be concerned about. But if I don't get to speak to you guys before the end of the year, I do want to say a massive thank you to you all, especially Luke and Jamie, because they've really helped me on this channel. Like, I'll be honest with you guys, doing watch alongs at 3 a.m. when you've got 2 young kids where you barely sleep anyway is bloody difficult. So shout out to those two, but also want to give some shout outs to some people in the comments as well without being too soppy. And please don't take offense if I don't call your name. I might just forget. I'm getting old and the brain ain't what it used to be. But Chris Brack, I know we go back and forth and we laugh and joke all the time. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you so much, bro. You're always on these shows and we speak a lot offline as well. Thank you, bro. Football gossiper, you're a legend. Always got a good joke in you as well. Shout out to Boo Rider, Mtar Mizzy, A9, Freezy, I see you as well. Ghost, LFC 12th man, always making time for the show. Chris Angel, Bayesian Reds TV, John Conway. Have I forgotten anyone? Ewok, I see you. That's 12. Sorry, that's 11 fights in a row. Himanshu, Imran, Umair, Biggs. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, guys, appreciate you all. Hopefully, we have one more show. If we don't between now and the end of the year, I hope you all have an amazing Christmas with your loved ones and your family and your friends, and an amazing new year. And nothing but God's blessings to you all. People, this is me for tonight. Take care. Smash that like button and all the rest of it. Take care, everyone. See you soon.